This podcast was brought to you by Christmas. It's early, but that hasn't stopped anyone else. I mean, my neighbors had their Christmas lights up in July.
Hello, and welcome to Monkey Broadcast, a monthly review discussion show with me, the Jonin Monkey.
And me, Sven the Crusader, who is praising the heavens for upgraded internet.
Hooray!
Hopefully we won't have to do so many takes of this podcast.
Here's hoping. You've got upgraded internet just in time for this year's season finale.
Yay! Wow. I've also gone through puberty just in time for this year's season finale.
Yeah, it's a monthly show, but we always take a break in December because of Christmas, holidays, etc. So today's show is the season finale for 2015. I can't really say I'm doing much better than Sven because I decided, hey, on the same day as recording, I'm going to go and do some sword training.
Yay, so we're horse and pubescent. That sounds weird out of context, so let's move on to the body of the show.
Move on from that. Okay, so, yeah, let's get that image out of everyone's head and move straight into
Q&A!
This is the section where we answer questions from the audience. And just because it's the season finale doesn't mean you cannot send us questions for next year. Either leave them in the comments or send them to me via Twitter with the hashtag MBQuestion. And to kick things off, we start with the Infinity Zero, and he asks,
Can you give an example of a character that you like but everyone else hates?
Yes, I can. Very easily. I'm just going to present this example with basically no context, because anyone who has read the webcomic in question, well, the reasoning behind this is obvious. Vriska from Homestuck.
I wish I knew the context, but I'm still getting through the early chapters of it at this point.
Yeah. You know how there's this long-standing belief of, like, character change and development and heel-face turns in A Song of Ice and Fire / Game of Thrones? Not an existent mindset with the Homestuck fandom, but hey, I like to think that my literary maturity is carried over from A Song of Ice and Fire, so, you know.
Fair enough.
God knows it's one of the only useful things I've gotten out of that series.
So I'm taking it as a character that's done some awful things, but has shown their motivations over time then, or?
Yeah. I mean, it's complicated, but that's the long and short of it. You've got a character who has done some, as was put by Epic Rap Battles of History, shady shit. But over time, I don't know, character development has just got me to like the character a lot.
That is fair enough.
For those of you who don't know the context, I'm not going to spoil it, by the way.
Yes, thank you for that. I'm still trying to catch up with it. In my case, I've got two. One's short, basically because over time people have started to like it, and one that may take a bit of explaining. To get the short one out of the way first, Raiden as he appeared in Metal Gear Solid 2. Well, basically because he had a lot of bad luck. The entire point of his character is that he's a replacement for Solid Snake who's not quite up to it. And unfortunately, the one thing you have to keep in mind here is that this is not a case of, oh, people hate the new character, didn't give him a chance. Kojima basically withheld Raiden from any form of marketing for Metal Gear Solid 2, and then you play as Snake for the first hour, only for him to then be killed and then replaced with Raiden. So,
my god.
Yeah, so, like I said, Raiden's not only inferior to Solid Snake, but he also is meant to reflect the player in the fact that he kind of whines whenever things don't go his way and is cocky despite the fact he doesn't have the level of skill. So, even though he does have character flaws that make him an interesting character, he was given a rough deal from the start, basically.
Wow, that poor bugger.
They pretty much had to turn him into a superpowered cyborg ninja to make anyone like him, the poor guy.
Well, I guess that's a step up. Because, I mean, he's liked now, and, you know, spoiler, he killed Wolverine, but...
But, yeah, regardless, I do like Raiden, and I do feel kind of sorry for the raw deal he got, and Speaking of raw deals, there is another character who seemed to get this, and that's Vector the Crocodile from Sonic.
Huh. I give you credit. I wasn't expecting that.
No, it's funny. Vector's a character I haven't talked about that often because he kind of gets very little screen time. But here's the thing. First off, it's difficult to include him anyway because he's part of this crew known as Chaotix, which is basically like a shooter spin-off characters. So he's already got that problem. But on top of that, every single time Vector's been brought back into a Sonic game, he's always given some of the worst gameplay elements. Like, when he comes back in Sonic Heroes, the way they split it up in Sonic Heroes is that each team has a different difficulty set attached to them. Team Rose is easy, Team Sonic is normal, and Team Dark is hard. And Team Chaotix we are going to add a load of weird and frankly tedious side quests into the missions, like search for 10 crabs or find 20 torches in the area.
Wow. Those sound like they suck.
Pretty much, yeah. And then on top of that, well, when he appeared in Shadow the Hedgehog, he was given a buggy voice clip that repeated itself over and over and over again, so that whenever Vector appears on screen, people instantly shout, "Find the computer room." And then when he appeared in Sonic Generations, which was like the big anniversary edition, he was given the worst character-based minigame of the lot.
Wow.
And the reason I like him is not just because he's got the raw deal, but because there's an element of his character that appeared in Sonic Heroes but has never been shown up again since, which is that Chaotix is a detective agency and he's the head honcho. So he is basically a detective for hire. And I don't know why, but there's something I like about that concept because it's something you very rarely see in Sonic. And he is actually able to show off, I don't know if I'd call it intelligence, but certainly his intuition and the fact that he basically guesses most of the plot twists beforehand. Like, the setup they have in Sonic Heroes is that they are given a communication device and someone through a voice filter is giving them orders. When they get towards the end of the game, everyone's wondering who is our client's real identity. He goes, "Well, yeah, I know, he's in here. Hi, Eggman, give us our money now."
Wow, okay, I appreciate this guy.
Yeah, he can pretty much guess all the plot twists beforehand. In fact, there's dialogue which implies that he already knows the plot twist of Sonic Generations' final boss ahead of time as well. So he is shown to be a really cunning detective, and yeah, again, that's something you don't see in Sonic very often, and it's a part of his character I like. Unfortunately, that he doesn't get to show it very often. Instead, it's either find a computer room or, yeah, they basically need me because I'm one of the few power characters Sonic has, so hi, I'm in the Olympics now, I guess.
God, I feel sorry for this guy sympathetically already.
Although on the plus side, one thing I will give credit to the adventure mode of, I'm trying to remember which one it was. I believe it was the Winter Olympic Games on the DS. During the adventure mode, he also ended up making friends with Donkey Kong, which I appreciate.
Bro TP, man. Bro TP.
Yeah, the two of them, it's actually kind of amusing. How the game works is that they have this big team together, but someone ends up talking to another character in order to challenge or recruit them. And in Donkey Kong's case, he ends up saying, "Hey, are those headphones you're carrying?" And the two of them start talking about music. It's a strange conversation.
Wow. Okay. I kinda sorta wanna look into this and see this now.
Yeah, it's not the greatest plot in the world, but there are some amusing interactions. But anyway.
Little does Vector know that the headphones were a CD of Donkey Kong himself singing in the animated series.
Those are my two picks, so we better move on to the next question.
Our next question also comes from Infinity Zero. I mean, looking at this question, it makes sense.
On the other side of the fence, you have a character that you hate but everyone else seems to like.
Yes! 2 words, because anyone who has been with us for a long time will understand what I mean immediately. Mayuri Kuretsuchi.
Oh yeah, the mad scientist from Bleach.
Yeah, who for some reason Tite Kubo thought was lasting comedic material.
Yeah, and you could say, well, fair enough, except in his first appearance, he openly admits, yeah, I kind of was responsible for the slow, painful genocide of an entire race.
Yeah, and by the way, that has had an impact because he is at least partially responsible for the current arc.
Yeah, turns out there was a surviving portion of that race, and let's just say they're not happy.
Yeah, they're not happy at all.
Yeah, that is a pretty good example. Do you have any others you want to mention, Sven?
Not terribly, that's the big one.
Okie doke. Well, there are a few I could mention, although I should mention in his question notes, Infinity's told me not to mention Senator Armstrong, which...
Yeah, that's basically your Myri straight out of the park.
Yeah, I would also mention Sasuke, but the thing is, it tends to be a split down the middle rather than everyone liking. From what I can tell, there are a good number of people who dislike him in the Naruto fanbase as well, so it's really hard to say he's beloved by anyone, although I do have one strong example. And it's something that I've mentioned before, but I wouldn't be surprised if anyone forgot it, because it appeared in one of our older shows, and a show in which what seemed like a good idea at the time, I decided, hey, let's do a discussion about things we hate, which ended up being a incoherent, angry babble. But anyway...
I think I remember that one.
Yeah, now's a chance for me to mention this again with clarity. Bayonetta.
Oh, yeah. I remember that conversation.
Yeah.
I remember it very clearly now.
Yeah, I tried to get into Bayonetta by watching a Let's Play, playing a demo, and honestly... I cannot stand her character. I admit I've not seen the full story, so maybe there was some development, but whenever I try, she always infuriates me, and it's not because of the fan service. It's stupid, but I've dealt with this before. I mean, for God's sake, I played through Dead or Alive story mode, but
Oh God. Don't remind me, I still pity you.
It's not the fan service itself that annoys me. It's Bayonetta's entire personality. Mainly because... she's the type of person I hate in real life. The best way I can describe it is that the one quality that irritated me the most is that she has to be the center of attention. It's not the fact that she uses her sexuality, it's that it's very clear that she's showing off, oh yeah, look at me, look at my perfect body, I'm better than all of you, pay attention to me, stop not paying attention to me.
Oh, so she's fan service Donald Trump.
Basically, yeah. And on top of that, she has this irritating thing where they try to make her seem badass by always throwing in quips, but it makes her look like a person who desperately needs to have the last word in any argument. It doesn't matter if the argument was pointless or if it was a person she didn't even need to pay attention to. She will still throw in a line. And I can list multiple examples of this. There's a time when the weapon seller goes, hey, I know you're on a quest, but I also have my own plans, so don't get in my way. That's a conversation you could have just dropped, because, again, he's the weapons dealer. He's obviously not going to get involved. But then Bayonetta just points the gun at him and goes, no, you listen, I have an agenda, don't get in my way, or, and I swear this is a direct quote, how do the Americans put it? Oh yes, bust a cap in your ass.
Oh God, I remember that. Not only is it terrible, terrible character writing, it's also dumb.
Yeah.
By the way, we don't say that.
But yeah, on top of that, I think the moment where I decided, okay, yeah, I've had enough of this, is this moment when an angel, because there's like this whole war between heaven and hell going on, there's a moment when an angel pops down and he's on the hunt for something else. He meets some Bayonetta, but then he goes, I have no quarrel with you, so I shall be on my way. And then Bayonetta kicks a rock at him and yells, "If you don't have a quarrel, why do you get to decide that?" And it's like, oh, for f***'s sake, you're picking a boss fight for no f***ing reason. Like, she says, "Oh yes, I could probably make some money out of your corpse." That's it. That's the only reason she picked the damn fight. Because she couldn't stand the fact that that guy was in control, and it just... this is the thing, and it's also why I'm never going to review Bayonetta. I don't believe in objective reviewing because I believe it's bollocks, but I still want to go into reviews with some level of fairness. And I can tell you right now, if I ever did try to review Bayonetta, the frustration I have towards that character would take hold, and it would just colour my interpretation of the rest of the story. That's why I stopped when I did, because I cannot stand her character. She's just the kind of person who I would not be able to deal with in real life. She is the kind of person where if I saw her in the building, I'd go as far the hell away from her as possible, because I know if I did, I would say something I would regret.
I just think we have them running for president in the United States, but totally I understand.
Oh dear.
Also, I would like to continue on from this thought, because I've just remembered the most recent addition to this list. See, Mayuri and I have a very long-standing history of animosity. I say that as though I'm actually interacting with the character. I could list Ichigo, but Ichigo is now so unpopular he didn't even feature in the last Bleach popularity poll. I could say Deadpool, but I don't really hate Deadpool, he just annoys me. So I'm gonna go with the next best thing. Superman.
Oh.
I'm gonna leave this brief because I don't want DC fans blowing up my mailbox next, now that I think I've finally ran out of rage for One Piece. But, yeah, Superman. I'm gonna keep this brief. Cartoonish, patriotic American wank in an overpowered costume. Just watch Goku versus Superman. He's literally invincible. Why do people like this character again? Hell, why do people like DC Comics again? Because that's literally all they do. Archetypes and Mary Sue's. And to be honest, I will give DC Comics credit with one thing. It's looking into them that has made me get at least something of an appreciation for Bleach again. Because I've realized that Bleach could be a lot stupider.
Yeah. On that same note, I had a conversation here about the Joker, but I cut it out due to time, and also the fact that I freely admitted that it had nothing to do with the character, and more the fact that the writers can never decide if he's just doing things for the laughs, a psycho who loves pain, or if he's a criminal mastermind who wants to take over Gotham. Although there's one part of the conversation that I do want to keep in. And by the way, if you're going to make a character such a sadistic psychopath, why do people work for him?
Oh my god, that's a good point. The Joker has one of the stupidest turnover rates I've ever seen. And it's not because of layoffs, trust me.
So yeah, now that between us, me and Sven have pissed off enough fan bases to destroy the podcast, I think.
Yeah! Nowadays I'm actually kind of glad no one watches this.
Yeah, so it's probably time for us to retreat. So, on to a more fun and light-hearted question.
Fall back!
This is the last question from Infernity Zero this month, which is...
Have you ever seen the web show Death Battle?
Strap yourself in, son.
Yeah, to be honest, I kind of threw this question in because me and Sven did have a show planned to discuss our opinions of Death Battle. The problem was it was a countdown, and with every fight that came out, we kept changing the opinion and list order, so we decided, you know what, let's just scrap it and bring it up in the podcast.
That's the truth of it, because, you know, even though some episodes annoy me, like Goku vs. Superman 2, which should have never existed, and last week's episode for entirely different reasons, God, Death Battle's good.
Yeah. Basically, for those of you who have never seen the web series, what Death Battle does is that it takes two fictional characters, does a very detailed analysis of both sides, and then pits them head to head against each other in an animated battle to see, well, who would win. However, what makes it different from other character battle shows around the net, like Superpowered Beatdown, which is basically based on how many people vote for one character over the other, in Death Battle, the show's creators actually try to analyze the characters scientifically, try to put some kind of mathematical formula on their abilities, and basically try to analyze it based on the evidence as opposed to it being a popularity contest. So when you get to the conclusion of the battle, they explain their reasonings, and 9 times out of 10, the reasoning is actually pretty good. Like, I'll always come away from a death battle going, okay, I didn't want that character to win, but yeah, I can see why you would reach that conclusion. It's on the level like, we mentioned Goku versus Superman a couple of times, and it was sort of that case too, where, apologies for the spoilers, but Superman wins that battle, and I look at the results and then calculate the figures, and I go, yeah, okay, I wanted Goku to win, but yeah, it doesn't even come close when you do the maths.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Characters you already know in Death Battle, you will come away from Death Battle knowing even more about, and characters you know nothing about, like, in my case, Guts, you will come out of the episode with a completely new appreciation for.
Yeah,
usually.
That's the thing. Even if the battle itself isn't good, the analysis is always the most interesting part, because I have a kind of weakness for detailed breakdowns of characters like that, so it's actually pretty cool for them to basically dig deep into the lore of the character, like all of their past interpretations and some of the things they have done, especially some of the comic stuff, like with Iron Man versus Lex Luthor, because you get to see some of the crazy stuff that has appeared in comics over the years, like Iron Man's endosuit, which is basically a metallic symbiote that is based on psychic power.
Yeah, and from that same fight, fun fact, Lex Luthor once stole 40 cakes. He stole 40 cakes, Jonin. That's as many as 4 tens. And that's terrible.
And then DC made it canon for whatever reason.
Bastards!
uh,
We just quoted an entire section of Death Battle.
Yeah, so it's a show we do really enjoy. I'd say the only 2 battles, well, aside from the comedic ones like the Justin Bieber versus Sarah Blackwood, which I honestly ignored, the only 2 death battles I felt were disappointing were, one was Superman versus Goku 2, which was basically made because fans would not stop going on about how, oh, Goku's achieved Super Saiyan God now, that means he can beat Superman, right? And basically the entire episode was just them going, okay, here's a fancy CGI fight, but no, seriously, he could never win against Superman. Please stop.
Yeah, pretty much. That fight never should have existed. Also, fun fact, just to go off on a side note here, there is a healthy Death Battle fanfiction community going on DeviantArt and, well, deathbattlefanon.wikia.net. Superman has won every single fight, except one with Doctor Doom. Every single fight.
Yeah.
Why did you request this? You knew what was gonna happen.
The thing is, I think people don't. I think people just go on vague, basic knowledge, like, oh yeah, Superman's a superpowered alien as well. We can pit him against Goku, and then Goku can win. And then, and you actually look into the popular culture, you realize, oh shit, like, the Man of Steel never mentions the moment when Superman lifts 6 quintillion tons or something.
Yeah. And that's just the start of his powers.
Yeah, not to mention the time he lifted infinity.
Yeah. And another time where he lifted eternity.
Yeah. And the latest one at the time of recording, which was Yang versus Tifa, and to be honest, in my end, part of me is saying Yan's abilities were so vague and we have so little information on them, it shouldn't have been done. But honestly, I think it's mostly because I really didn't want Yan to win with her broken ability.
Admittedly, it's like putting Ichigo in a death battle. There's always that fear that that broken-ass power is gonna win, and you don't want it to, although at least Yang is a likable character, for God's sake.
That is true.
But, you know what's funny? I'm of kind of the same 2 minds, and I think all 4 of our minds come together and say, that product placement at the end.
Oh, yeah. That just kind of put a sour taste in everyone's mouth at the end.
Yeah.
But that aside, I can pretty much agree with every single other Death Battle show, but to list off some of our favourites, off the top of my head, I can think of Iron Man vs. Lex Luthor, Goku vs. Superman, the first one, Raiden vs. Wolverine, and Scorpion vs. Ryu, even if the result was spoilers!
Yeah. And on my end, I agree with all of yours, and I would add Donkey Kong vs. Knuckles, Rainbow Dash vs. Starscream, Gara vs. Toph, Fad Boy Screaming, Chuck Norris vs. Sagata Sanchiro, Guts vs. Nightmare, and there was one more.
There's always one more. This is why we stopped the countdown.
Yeah, we would never keep up. You know our release schedule.
Yeah, we just keep changing our opinions like every single time the Death Battle comes out, and then we suddenly remember, oh shoot, wait, that was that other little one that was really good. Speaking of which, Solid Snake versus Sam Spence.
Yeah, God, another one. Basically all of their CGI/3D fights, except Link versus Cloud, because the less said about the animation quality in that one, the better.
Yeah, I mean, I like the conclusion of that one, but yeah, the animation was kind of down on that one.
And especially the less said about the Pegasus boots animation.
Early days, but yeah.
Just a Speedy Gonzalez wind up and he shoots off like a rocket.
Oh dear, but yeah.
Almost so stupid, it's awesome.
Oh dear, but yeah, long story short, Death Battle is a really good show and I would recommend it.
Wholeheartedly. Our next question comes from Vice, who asks,
What is the dumbest review for a game story you've ever seen on YouTube?
have fun treading these waters, Jonin. I don't watch those things for a reason.
Well, I can think of two examples. Unfortunately, they're not on YouTube, so I'm kind of bending the rules here. The first one is, well, there are two IGN reviews. They're for Tales of Abyss and the Black Knight, Sonic and the Black Knight, rather. But honestly, it comes down to the same reason. The fact that they very clearly didn't finish the game. First off, they were going, we had this Tales of the Abyss game, and they all fighting to stop the evil plans of Ditz the Rose, who is a sub-boss, not the main villain in any sense or form.
Oh, God. Oh, God, why?
And in Sonic the Black Knight's case, oh yeah, it's so easy, you defeat the Black Knight and the game's over, and guys, you do realise that's a fake out, right? It's only half the game. If you start the game afterwards, you start the second half.
Oh my God, IG, and you'd think that game experts would know games.
Or at least don't act like you finished the game if you haven't, but anyway.
Oh, that's just sad.
But yeah, as for a review from beginning to end, it's quite difficult to think of an example because part of the reason that I started VGT in the first place is the fact that people only glance at a story specifically. There's very few story reviews. There are some times when I've watched a review of a game and they vaguely talk about the story, and there are times when they point out plot holes which I either think don't matter in the grand scheme of things, or it's something that they've completely missed the points on. But those are all very minor things, and are just sort of minor nitpicks and otherwise perfectly okay reviews. The one that I do have a problem with, and it's not so much the person's opinion of the game, because I haven't played it, so I don't really know if his opinion is accurate or not, but it's more the way the person carried themselves off in that review. And several elements that, well, let's just say, changed my opinion on how reviews should be done as a whole. Spoony One's review of Final Fantasy X.
Oh, that asshole!
Yeah, this is something that actually turned me off Spoony for a long time, long before that Twitter incident.
Yeah.
Okay, just to give a basic idea, Spoony does these multi-part reviews of modern Final Fantasy games he dislikes. It's very clear from the outset that he prefers the older Final Fantasy games, and the fact that the only modern Final Fantasy game that has been spared his wrath is Final Fantasy IX, and that's only because he basically took one look at the art style and decided he hated everything about it, even though he hadn't actually played the game.
Oh, so he's a snob as well as a bitch-made asshole.
Yeah, he actually kind of started his review of Final Fantasy X by saying, okay, yeah, I can see that Final Fantasy IX probably was a throwback to the old school stuff I've been missing, but I could not get into the art style, which would be fine, but then he goes on a massive rant about all of the character designs, which can be summed up in one line: androgynous preteen furries, you know, everything I hate about anime.
I'm not sure, but I think in my head I just let out a bigger f*** you than I did to the producers of The Walking Dead Season 2.
Unfortunately, it only gets worse, because in a question about reviews previously, I mentioned a quote where, in this review, Spoony lets out the line, and people like this game. I implore you people, find them and kill them. They're like voters, kill them all. That in itself is an absolutely terrible line. I don't care if you're in character or out of character or whatever. That is something you should never say. But you know what the silliest part of that was? What spurred this rant? Was it a plot hole that destroyed the story but was constantly overlooked? Was it a theme that he found abhorrent? Was it a stupid character moment? Was it the infamous scene where the characters forced themselves to laugh? No! It was Seymour's hairstyle! That was what prompted him to try and kill everyone who liked Final Fantasy X. For f***'s sake, dude, keep things in proportion!
Oh my god, and people wonder why I fucked off out of that guy with the glasses. It's kind of a running theme with those people that they can't be funny without being dicks.
Yeah, I mean, I think Linkara's the sole exception.
I was about to say, Linkara aside, he's awesome. He did a collaboration and got our only video with 1,000 views.
Yeah. There are two other aspects I didn't like. The first, which I'll quickly mention over here, the constant nitpicking. Now, I can understand you looking at plot points, especially since some of them seem kind of silly, but there's a moment where, in the first cutscene, the first thing he does is rate about the design of a lamp. I'm not f***ing kidding.
Oh my god. Of all the you could have said about Final Fantasy X you pick on the design, have you not been paying attention? This is the series that gave us Final Fantasy VIII.
He's done a review of that as well, but he claims 10 was worse.
Bullshit. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, definitely moving on. The biggest thing as well is storylines. Now, people may have wondered why I abandoned the stuff with the sketch characters. Part of it was because my show was moving in a new direction. Part of it was because I didn't have the budget or the space. But this was the review that made me think, yeah, maybe storylines and reviews isn't the best idea. I mean, there are people who can pull it off, like Linkara, but that's because Linkara knows how to work it into the reviews and also, in some cases, parody himself in a way. But yeah, there was a storyline in this, and it's quite possibly the most nonsensical thing. Okay, to quickly bring up some backstory for this to make kind of sense. At the end of the Final Fantasy VIII review, Squall and Dr. Insano appear and kill Spoony, which leads into the next episode where they revive him by making a clone, which was basically to tie into the fact that he was reviewing a movie called Clones of Bruce Lee, which, by the way, is one of the few Spoony reviews I actually like. Unfortunately, the original Spoony was then revived in a reference to Black Lantern, which is basically superhero zombies, and he comes back to try and take his show from the clone. However, this then leads into a gag where the clone says,
"Show's all yours, man. I quit." Wait, what? Yep, totally. Hey, no tricks now. I know me. No tricks. You can have this review with my blessing. Oh, cool, I guess. That was easy. So, what am I reviewing? Final Fantasy X.
Keep your show. Turns out there isn't. And you are going to live in it.
Because, haha, Final Fantasy X's that bad and everything. But then, right at the end, because for some weird reason, Spoonie's perfectly fine to do a multi-part series that basically spoils every plot point and rants about how terrible it is, but he won't do the ending. He gets interrupted by two things that happen in a row. First, oh my god, this is so stupid. Tidus, the main character of Final Fantasy game, Tidus, I really don't care, walks in, and it's obviously Spoonie dressed up as him. And, oh my god, this is a sequence worthy of Salzburg, the directors of Scary Movie and all the other awful parody movies since then. Because, literally, it is just Spoonie dressed up as Tidus going, "I'm the star of the Anakin Ames!" Basically just, I'm going to list off quotes, so therefore that's funny. And Spoonie then brutally murders him.
I hate your stupid game! I hate your stupid laugh! And I hate your stupid face!
Yeah, nice to show your respect to other creators, Spoonie. You're really doing yourself proud.
Oh, a glowing example of video game criticism.
Yeah, but oh f***ing hell, it gets worse. Because Black Lantern Spoonie, the original, shows up again. And despite the fact that, like I said at the start, he doesn't want the show anymore, he suddenly has changed his mind and decided he's going to go around killing off Spoonie's other sketch characters like Spoonie Bum, and he comes back for the clone Spoonie, and they do this ridiculous over-the-top fight for a bit, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, clone Spoonie has like a self-referential moment when he goes,
What happened to us, man? This isn't what we started reviewing games and movies for. This isn't what you started reviewing it for. We did this just to have some laughs, to make other people laugh, to talk about and share our experiences with bad movies and games. Not to hurt people, not to kill people or rule the world. I'd like to go back to that. I mean, you're right. What happened to you was wrong. That's why I'm glad you came down, because I was hoping after a good fight we'd hash it out and I could give you your Christmas present at last. That's why I want you to have this.
I don't even know what to say.
Said Christmas present turns out to be a box full of grenades, and the stupid fight begins anew. Thus, turning a moment that could have been an acknowledgement of his critics into a setup for another awful joke. Read that entire review, man.
I never thought I'd encounter a reviewer that makes me feel better about Yahtzee, but I have.
Yeah, this was just... That's part of the reason why I stopped the whole review storyline thing, because I just took one look at that and thought, yeah, I just can't do this type of thing anymore.
I don't blame you, because I feel physically drained having listened to that, because I'm astounded. I'm astounded that someone could be so blindingly unprofessional, and not only that, still have fans.
Like I said, it's not about his opinions of Final Fantasy X. I have not played Final Fantasy X. I don't know if they're accurate or not, but just to be that disrespectful and that full of yourself, it drove me away from Spoonie. I mean, I tried to get back for the Final Fantasy X to review, but even that was just yet more the same, and honestly, I couldn't deal with it anymore.
I think it's time to move on, but before I do, I would like to include a very personal PSA. This part of the review redacted because I started sounding like Spoonie.
Oh, yeah. On that note, we now move on to our next question from Vice of Legend.
What is the worst moment you and Sven have experienced together?
Ha! Well, that's an interesting question.
Yeah, I can think of one. It depends on whether you want to tell it or if you want me to tell it.
Go ahead, because I'm drawing a blank.
I can understand why you'd get about this. Okay, it's nothing that's happened on this channel, but... Well, let me put it this way. As we mentioned way back in one of the earlier shows, when someone asked how me and Sven met each other over text roleplays, or RPs as they're known. And we continued to do some in private over personal messaging rather than in the main forum, and we actually created a bunch. We created a bunch of stories, and we continue to do so to this day, with time permitting and everything. One of these stories was called Rebirth of Hope. It was a simple story. It was basically about a rebellion that had failed to take back a kingdom, coming back, Sven's smirking because he knows what I'm talking about now.
I'd forgotten about this, oh god!
Okay, it was a story about a rebellion that had failed to win back a kingdom, having a second try, basically, and we had made some pretty good progress. We developed a bunch of characters we like, we'd given them several victories, and we'd actually come up to a big plot twist that was an I am your father moment, or was it I am your uncle in that case?
Yes, it was.
Yes. So we had done that big plot point. It was definitely going to be one of the climactic battles, and we were having a cool down after that. And we decided, okay, we're going to have a training arc, because our characters need to. And as it turns out, one of my characters had decided they were going to switch over to magic, so they needed training anyway. And Sven's character, the nephew of the villain, also needed a power boost. So we had them team up with our older characters to go through a training arc. So they decided, oh great, this is going to be awesome, we are going to have character development, and we are going to show just how wise this old man is. How does our magic system work? Is it spirit? Kind of particle things? Oh crap, we didn't think this through.
Yeah! Our entire RP was brought crashing to the ground because we didn't think out the story universe enough.
Yeah, that was the most embarrassing moment. An entire story left by the wayside because it never occurred to us to think about how our magic worked.
And I do mean by the wayside because that RP has not been successfully continued since.
Yeah, so this combined with the fact that when we looked back on some of our more improvised stories, we kind of realised that a lot of them had concepts that appeared out of nowhere, or characters showing up for a little moment and then going in completely opposite directions from what they originally set out to do. It's basically why we decided, yeah, improv's good and all, but maybe we should do some serious solid planning before we start doing any of
that, combined with the RPs that I was doing with my best friend over Skype, and MSN back in the day. God, I miss MSN. Were what convinced me to start planning my novels out ahead of time as well, because my most shameful moment as a writer, having a great story brought crashing into the seas by the magic system of all things.
Yeah, it's just... yeah.
And what's funny is that in the process, we discovered how the magic system works. It destroys its own story.
Yeah, so... Yeah, I don't think there's anything else we can say. That is our most shameful moment together as creatives and writers. None of thing we have done as podcasters or gamers has come close, frankly. On that note, before we get any more embarrassed, let's just move on to the final question.
Our final question comes from... Oh. Well, it was inevitable. Toon Junkie.
I challenge Richard the Knight to a duel. Does he accept, or will he forever be branded a cowardly knave?
You had to bring up one of my old sketch characters, didn't you? Right, well, I'm going to prepare for the inevitable when... Sorry about that, just smashing his head against the keyboard. Right! So, you dare call me a cowardly knave, do you, Toon Junkie? I find that pretty rich, given the fact that I generously offered to give you payment, and you sent a courier in your place. Yes, the courier did end up falling into a death trap, but I assure you that was completely unrelated and was definitely not a trap name for you. Point is, I will not accept this challenge on my honor, especially not from someone like you. So yes, I accept your terms, which is actually kind of funny because I noticed you didn't actually set any terms. So, let's see, what do I challenge you to? You, the skinny American, the one trying to hide behind your desk.
Meep.
Decide rules of engagement now. Come on, chop chop, I haven't got all day.
Dueling banjos, 50 paces.
Right, okay, now I'm gonna have to find a cursed banjo. Right, be back in a moment.
Jonin, are you okay?
Well, thankfully I got a helmet this time.
Good to come prepared. I hope that answers your question, Toon Junkie.
And on that bizarre note, that ends the Q&A for this year. Once again, thank you to everyone who sent the fantastic questions. Keep them coming. You guys always make this show go in crazy but interesting directions. In the meantime, we now move on to our next segment, which is...
Reviews!
This is the section where we review something we've read, watched, or played this month, but I'm bidding for Sven, you don't have anything this month.
Yeah, I lead an interesting life.
Well, in fairness, the only reason I have movies to review is because I had a couple of weekends alone, so I thought, you know what, I'll pull out some of the odd movies I haven't watched yet and watch them with my faithful movie-going companion, by which I mean my dog.
Always a good companion to have in such circumstances.
Yes, he has a very high level of critical analysis. Unfortunately, that critical analysis mostly comes in the form of patting me on the stomach to remind me that I've stopped petting him.
Your dog sounds more like my cat.
But it's kind of funny, he's a greyhound, so he has the same energy level as a cat, funnily enough.
Go figure. And what's really funny about that is that we always think that our cat is half dog.
Oh dear. In this case, I watched a bunch of movies, and the one I decided to talk about again it's a Marvel movie, but having watched it again, I've confirmed that, yes, it is indeed my favourite Marvel movie out of the bunch. Yes, I like it even more than Avengers. That movie in question, Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Oh, this is gonna be good, because it's a good movie for once.
Yes, indeed. For those of you who don't know, it's the sequel to the original Captain America film, Captain America the First Avenger, although it does have some continuity leads from the Avengers, hence why Black Widow shows up without any introduction beforehand. But the basic plot goes like this. Captain America, who for the record is a soldier that was given enhancing drugs during World War II that allow him to be super strong, super fast, super durable, etc., he was frozen in ice for about 50 following years. It's not really specified. He gets thawed out around the year 2000, and he then gets recruited into S.H.I.E.L.D., which is basically the CIA except with advanced technology that kind of matches the superhero universe. And he's basically going around trying to fit into this new timeline and getting used to the new style of warfare, which is based on espionage and secrets that are being hidden from him by other members of his own team in operations. Just as all of that confusion's coming to a head, there is a crisis within S.H.I.E.L.D., and a crisis that has been going on for a long time. See, during World War II, there was a group of specialised Nazi scientists known as Hydra, and everyone thought Captain America defeated them, but as it turns out, they didn't really disappear. They just buried themselves within S.H.I.E.L.D. like a parasite, their own words, not mine, and have been pretty much shifting S.H.I.E.L.D. towards a much darker path. How much darker? Well, one thing you should know about this movie is that, unlike a lot of the other Marvel films, which are fun action movies with some character depth to them, is that it does actually have a theme. Specifically, the whole freedom versus security debate that has been going on in America for quite some time, and admittedly it comes up in Britain as well. S.H.I.E.L.D. has been developing something called Project Insight, which basically boils down to 3 helicarriers with massive guns connected to a database on people they suspect of being terrorists and or agents of Hydra. And it's designed to instantly kill anyone they perceive to be a threat.
Oh, so basically the logical final step of the PRISM program in America.
Pretty much, yeah. In fact, it is... And that's kind of the interesting thing, because it's basically a superhero version of that, in the sense that the way Hydra explained their plan is that they tried taking freedom away from people by force during World War II. However, they encountered resistance and eventually lost the war. So they thought, okay, you know what? That's not going to work. So we're going to be more subtle. We're going to slip into S.H.I.E.L.D. and other intelligence organizations behind the scenes, and we're going to make a world so chaotic that people are willing to sacrifice their freedom for the sake of security, which, yeah, it might be kind of hitting people over the head with their message, but again, when your movie is called Captain America, it's kind of interesting that they do start exploring themes like that.
That is true. I mean, you'd expect a movie called Captain America to be more patriotic than Superman's jumpsuit.
Yeah, it's actually a theme they do explore pretty well. The villains, they're not just complete straw men. You can kind of see why they would think like this. And there's one moment when Nick Fury, the head operative of S.H.I.E.L.D. before he finds out it's being compromised, and the way he finds out is people trying to kill him.
A reasonable way to find out.
Yeah. He introduces the concept of Cap.
We're gonna neutralize a lot of threats before they even happen.
Thought the punishment usually came after the crime.
We can't afford to wait that long. For once, we're way ahead of the curve.
By holding a gun to everyone on Earth and calling it protection.
You know, I read those SSR files. Greatest Generation? You guys did some nasty stuff.
Yeah. We compromised. Sometimes in ways that made us not sleep so well. But we did it so that people could be free. This isn't freedom. This is fear.
You know, this is exactly why I've always loved Captain America. Despite standing for the American ideal, he is the exact opposite of what America actually is.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting in that sense, and it plays into a part of Captain America's character in this, which is, it's actually one of the most interesting parts, because there's all of this espionage going on around him, and Captain America, Steve Rogers, as he's also he's kind of like the same concept of Superman. In fact, you mentioned when Linkara was a guest on our show, he reviewed the first Captain America movie, and he actually sold me on the idea of Captain America, because being the ignorant Brit, I always thought, oh god, it's just America aggrandizing itself. No offense, Sven, this was when I was kind of an ignorant teenager.
Well, to be fair, we do that a lot in comic books.
Yeah, so Linkara was the one he explained that he's kind of like Superman in the fact that he is like the ultimate paragon. He is the one everyone in the Marvel Universe looks up to. Like, you can have your characters with shades of grey, you can have your anti-heroes, but Captain America is the one who reminds people, no, this is what a good person looks like. Superman resembles that for the DC universe, and I suppose you could argue Mario represents it for Smash Bros, but whatever. The point is, reason why it's especially interesting in this is because you have this pure and honest soul stuck in the middle of an espionage situation. You know, a situation that relies on barefaced lying, secret deals.
So basically, it's like putting Ned Stark at King's Landing.
Pretty much, yeah. Except it turns out more favourably in this time. Not just because it's a superhero movie, but also because he's teamed up with Black Widow. And this actually leads into one of the most fascinating and enjoyable parts of the movie, because you've got a partnership between the simple, honest character who, what you see is what you get, basically, and Black Widow, who continuously lies, pretends to be something else. And when Steve asks her at one point, look, who are you deep down when you stop lying? Who actually are you? Widow just turns and says, what do you want me to be? So you've got this really interesting dynamic between the characters, and it also leads to, like, there are scenes where Captain America gets to show off that, yes, he's a really powerful man with super strength, and he's also a trained soldier, so he knows how to look out the sentries. But there's this one sequence where him and Black Widow are on the run, and they're trying to escape from a crowded shopping mall, and Captain America says,
Standard tag team. 2 behind, 2 across. 2 coming straight at us. If they make us, I'll engage. You hit the south escalator of the metro.
Shut up and put your arm around me. Laugh at something I said.
What?
Do it.
she's using her skills in hiding in the shadows to basically just walk out of that shopping mall without alerting a single one of them. And it also leads to one of the funniest exchanges in the entire movie when they're on an escalator. He sees that the Hydra members are coming up the other side, and she turns around to Cam and goes,
"Kiss me."
What?
Public displays of affection make people very uncomfortable.
Yes, they do.
So, basically, the summation of their time together can basically be summed up as Ned Stark and Solid Snake have adventures.
Pretty much, yes. That's one of the great things about this movie, is the way they use the established characters, but also just the way they express characters as well. Like, they make good use of what they have. There's this moment where they have to do the standard exposition dump to explain to anyone who didn't see the first movie but is watching this anyway. And the way they do this is by having Captain America walking around a Captain America exposition in the Smithsonian. Sorry, I meant to say exhibition. Damn you, Tunslip. This sounds goofy, and it is. It's basically him watching all of these exposition videos done in the big museum curator voice about his life. But it not only gets the exposition dump out the way, it also very neatly sums up the time disparity, because he's basically walking around a museum of his life. Like, he's been frozen, so he still remembers this war like it's yesterday, but you have all these people talking about it like it's ancient history. Like, oh yes, during the 1940s, Captain America did these things with the Howling Commandos, and like, all of these old videos which were the height of technology back then are now like small footnotes in this big multi-CGI video. It's this really great way of getting the exposition dump out the way, but also establishing the characters, which, yeah, it's just a really great scene. And that's what I really like about it, is that it uses the little bits of continuity and story elements they have and actually uses it to develop the characters in a more interesting way.
You know, all of this, honestly, just reinforces the fact that I have been most interested in checking out Captain America out of the new Marvel Cinematic Universe, even though I have a very personal interest in the Thor movies. But, yeah, especially compared with the Whedonism of the Avengers movies, Captain America sounds astonishingly well written.
Yeah, I mean, you do get, like, the quipping, but it's not as bad, and the characters are still allowed to express their own voice. This audience sequence is also foreshadowing for a moment much later, which is Stan Lee's best cameo in any Marvel movie, as far as I'm concerned. It's basically just before the climax, and Stevens has already been undercover in casual clothes all this time. And someone goes, "Hey, you're going to be leading the fight in that?" And Cap goes, "Not at all. I just need to get the uniform." And it cuts to the Smithsonian, where Stanley is working as a guard. He walks around the corner, sees that the costume's been stolen, and goes, "I am so fired."
Oh, that's brilliant. Mostly because I'm that sort of person who's a fan of the Mook jokes, like Soldier A and Biggs and Wedge in every Final Fantasy game ever. And that just appeals to me so much.
But yeah, the long and short of it is the character stuff in this is really good, making good use of what they have. And also, like I said, there's a lot of the whole espionage stuff, but it also shows why it's good to be as pure and honest and, well, as much a symbol as much as Captain America is, because it's actually saved their asses more than a few times. Because, first of all, it explains why Hydra can't just kill him in public, because, well, you can try or you like to say that this is for the security of the nation, but if you kill Captain America in broad daylight, who's seen as like this national treasure, people are going to start asking questions.
Yeah, to say the least.
No. We are definitely good guys. We are doing this for the nation's security. We just happen to kill the biggest symbol of American pride and culture. We are the good guys, I swear.
Might as well shut down all the apple pie factories while you're at it.
Also, it helps to the fact that, again, with all this espionage, you've got these people who are just constant liars, but when Captain America, a guy who, again, is what you see is what you get, when he actually says over the megaphone to everyone in S.H.I.E.L.D., "Hi, guys, just so you know, there are agents of Hydra amongst you. This Project Insight is a terrible idea that could destroy us all. Please don't do it." If it had been anyone else, people would start going, "Hang on a minute, what the hell are you talking about?" But because it's someone that honest and straightforward as Captain America, then people go, "Okay, this is actually kind of disturbing news." Sorry, Jerry, I know you work right next to me, but I'm not going to go against Cap, sorry.
Suck it, Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it is basically a good answer to that. But yeah, that's all the character stuff, which, yeah, it's really good. But it's also a good movie because of one very interesting twist by the Russo brothers, who are the directors of this movie. And they looked at the script and said, "You know what? There are some stuff we're going to have to do in CGI, but if we can do this with practical effects, we're doing it with practical effects. It will be harder, but it will look much better." And by God, it does, because there are still CGI action scenes, but especially towards the end when you've got the helicarriers and people flying around and stuff. But the rest of the action scenes are all practical, and the movie is a lot more engaging as a result. Especially when you see all of the little details, such as Cap's shield actually damaging the walls it hits, that make it more believable. This also leads to some more creative fight scenes, such as my favourite sequence, Captain America fighting 11 guys at once in an elevator.
Wow! That's awesome! So far, fight scenes, story, and characters all together, you've done a pretty good job of selling me on this movie.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it, especially since, dear Lord, this review keeps going. Sorry folks, I'm gonna have to summarise from here on out, otherwise we'll be here all day. Other positive notes include the villains, which range from the quiet and intense Winter Soldier, who is very effective in action scenes, and the charismatic leader Alexander Pierce, played by Robert Redford. Yep, he is in this movie. The only critiques I have of the Winter Soldier are honestly not unique to this film, and are more problems with the action movie mindset in general. Some of the later fights are ruined because of bad shaky cam and horrendous editing, which will cut at least 3 times every half second, even if we're only seeing someone fall over. And the finale goes on for way too long. We're constantly cutting back and forth between 3 different parties, and new obstacles keep popping up to drag it out even further. Even if you're invested in the story and the action like I was, it just gets exhausting after a while.
Yeah, it's an issue.
Yeah, but those are minor issues. Like I said, these are minor issues overall. Like, most of the action scenes are enjoyable. I mean, that whole cutting thing I only really noticed in the final fights of the finale, but those are minor complaints overall. Captain America the Winter Soldier is still a really, really good movie. It stands as... I'm probably going to come out and say that this is actually one of my favourite superhero movies of all time, not just best Marvel movie. I mean, it's going to take a lot to top this, and it's part of the reason why, at the moment, I'm kind of only interested in the Captain America and possibly the Guardians of the Galaxy movies at this point, because, okay, I may check out 1 or 2 of them, but I didn't check out Ant-Man just for the reason that, yeah, I've just kind of seen enough of the Marvel movies these days, you know?
Yeah, meanwhile, what's really funny is, I claim to like Marvel without ever having seen any of the movies. So, I may want to get a start on that, and from your recommendation and Linkara's, I think Captain America's a good place to go.
Yeah, I would say he has the best line of the Marvel movies right now. I can recommend the first Captain America just for context, although that's kind of a good movie on its own, even though the villain is more traditional, as in really, really bloody goofy.
Oh yeah, Red Skull. The guy's so comedically evil, even the Joker didn't want anything to do with him.
Yeah. But there's also Avengers because, well, you have to see Avengers. I mean, it's probably the best of the Whedon stuff, and it's also because, well, everything after that keeps referencing the Avengers in some shape or form.
And hell, people still at least like the first Avengers. Age of Ultron is a little more dodgy.
Well, I still say it's a good movie, but it's kind of divisive. Partially because it's the difficult second album, and partially because it tries a bit too much. And the jury's out on whether or not Ultron is a good villain. Some say he's really, really complex with multiple layers in his character. Some just say he's bland, weeded snark, so...
Yeah, and honestly, after Firefly, I've had enough of that to last me a lifetime.
But overall, yeah, Winter Soldier is still high on its list, and I kind of wish it... this may just sound like me whining, but I do really wish the movie would get a bit more recognition than it has, because it hasn't got Nolan attached to it, so many film critics just flat out ignore it.
Unfortunately, and I don't know why people still keep harping on the Nolan-verse, it was more ridiculous than the original Batman-verse.
Yeah, and from that moves us into our final section of the show, which is...
Quickfire Reviews!
This is the section where we review everything else we've read, watched or played, but within the maximum time limit of 60 seconds. Sven, do you have anything for this?
Believe it or not, I do!
Hooray! In that case, your time starts now.
Might and Magic 9, the final capstone of 3DO's Might and Magic series. And an old game from my past, which I recently got back into. The game is constantly gray, the atmosphere sucks, the combat is janky as all hell, the story is terrible, and yet I still like it for nostalgia reasons.
Fair enough.
The best way I could describe Might and Magic 9 is what Skyrim ultimately was. Or, Skyrim is what Might and Magic 9 should have been, given the proper amount of time and funding, but that's another story.
Fair enough. I've got a couple of things to do, so I will try to be quick.
Meals on Wheels, an action comedy starring Jackie Chan, which features two Chinese food vendors named Thomas and David trying to protect a girl who's being hunted by gangsters in the heart of Spain. I swear that makes sense in context.
I think that disclaimer applies to all Jackie Chan films.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's not a perfect film. There are some weird story leaves, like after they beat the bad guy, you don't even get to see them rescue the girls, or even a 5 months later card, you just jump back to them working at the food store. And there are some awkward representations of mental illness, but that aside, it has great action and great comedy, and that final fight scene for Jackie Chan's character is just freaking awesome from start to finish, and has some really, really good editing in it.
Awesome, another solid Jackie Chan recommendation. Seriously, Jackie Chan is the man.
Yep. For the record, if you want to see how I prefer my fight scenes edited, just look at Jackie Chan's work. And
Chroma Squad, a bizarre Power Rangers strategy game which also incorporates meta-narrative. Basically, the idea is a team of stuntmen going independent and setting up their own studio. Your equipment is the form of you buying better costumes and props for the show, and the strategy maps basically consist of you fighting enemies in the most stylish manner possible that will get you more ratings. It is an interesting system and has a lot of quirky humour to it, such as people debating whether or not the damsel in distress should be a woman or a dude, but it has a lot of charm to it, so yeah, if you've ever been a fan of Power Rangers or Super Sentai and you wanted to create your own team of Rangers, then definitely give it a look.
I think I might do just that. And before we head off, I've thought on the spot of something else I'd like to review before we, like I said, sign off.
Bleach, to quote CinemaSins.
What?
This is about that Bankai I mentioned on Twitter, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean... what?
For those of you who have never seen Bleach, Bankai are basically super forms, and they all have colourful names, and, okay, the new Bankai. Katen Kiyosu Korematsu Shinji. I apologise if I mispronounced that. And for those of you wondering what that means in English, Flower Heaven, Crazed Bone Spirit, Black Pine, Love Suicide.
No, really. To be fair, I think it's supposed to be a reference to a Japanese play, but it is so terribly handled.
Yeah, just...
And that's not even getting into everything else that's happened in this last arc, which has just been silly. Basically, Bleach has gone from occasional enjoyment to just enjoying making fun of it.
Pretty much. But every time I check into it, I read this and go, that brings both the show and this season to a close. thank you to everyone who has been following this series and making it as awesome as it is with your questions and your feedback, etc. And yeah, long may the show continue and may it grow from here. Although if it does grow, we're gonna have to watch what we say about certain fan bases.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, at least I've started making amends with the One Piece fan base, because I'm seriously considering looking at it, because I'm so bored of Bleach.
Yeah, fair enough. It's not bad for it to get it into that or My Hero Academia and Food Wars if you're into so ridiculous it's...
Well, to be honest, I'm into So Stupid It's Awesome, and I'm also into Gordon Ramsay, so combining the two of them...
Yeah, it's just, food. How to describe Food Wars? It's a cooking show taken with the utmost seriousness, drawn by someone who used to be a porn artist.
Oh, you showed me that one scene, and I don't think I will ever be able to forget the images I saw.
For anyone who knows the context, I will just say meets juice and moves very swiftly on.
Out of context, man, that's awkward. And on that note, we've come full circle, and I'm gonna sign off.
Okay, yeah. See you guys next year. Until then, I've been the Jonin Monkey.
And I've been Sven the Crusader. I will come back to you as Friend Santa in December of this year. This podcast is brought to you by puberty.
The sad thing is I'm tempted to use that one.
Oh, God.
Hello, and welcome to Monkey Broadcast. I was about to say brand new, but we've been going for about 6 years.
Oh my God, we have been.
Oh, jeez.
I was 17 when we started this.
Wow, time.
Okay, now that I've proved that we are both old men.
So,
howdy, folks.
I don't know why I said again, because this is his first question, but yeah.
This one's yours.
Yeah, I figured. Oh wait, yeah, duh. I only just, when you said this one's yours, I only just called up what you meant.
I was like, is he gonna cotton on anytime soon?
Oh dear. Who decided that, oh yeah, we're going to make this story and say that the games are based off of this, so they're just the legends, this is what actually happened, and who the f*** is calling me?
Quick fire reviews.
This is the section where we answer 6 of the questions and... No, bugger, wrong one!
Awesome, a blooper.
Talk about time loop.
Something Rocky Horror Picture Show.
With all that said and down, what?
Yes, with all that said and down, we can move on.
That was Monkey Broadcast, a monthly review and discussion show hosted by the Jonin Monkey and Sven the Crusader. If you feel you've been the subject of slander or that your copyright was misused, email me at thejoninmonkey@yahoo.co.uk. For more news and mini reviews, follow me on Twitter at thejoninmonkey, and go to thejoninmonkey.podbean.com for previous podcasts and MP3 downloads. Until next year, have fun, kids!